Well, you got to identify what is called your North Star. Your North Star is that part of you that you want to use to serve the world. Elon Musk, really simple, his North Star is colonizing Mars. And the fact is, you don't have to know how to get to your North Star. I got to have an audience with Elon Musk once, and I remember he told our group, when we asked him, so, what's the big picture? This was like 2015, before, he was as famous as he is today, and he says, I want to colonize Mars. And he also said this, he said, it's probably going to happen in around 10 years. I don't know yet how to get there. I'm thinking around 10 years, I sometimes miss my deadlines. He was really humble about it. But when you think about how Elon Musk talks, he doesn't talk about how he runs a rocket company. He talks about how he's going to colonize Mars, and that's what excites his employees. Do you know SpaceX is the #1 company great engineers want to join? But there are 19 other companies that do the same thing. Jeff Bezos has Blue Horizons. But why SpaceX gets all the attention, even though all SpaceX is a vertical trucking company. Regular trucking company moves goods this way. SpaceX moves goods this way, vertical trucking. But it's the most desirable company to join for the world's greatest engineers because Musk doesn't talk about vertical trucking. He talks about colonizing that red planet. You see, the secret here is to always have a frame of reference where you imagine your life 10 years ahead for your business, for your craft. So I started something really interesting. When people would ask me, what did Mindvalley do? I actually would not talk about what we were doing now. I would talk about what we were doing in the future. If you look at our website from 2016, when I started embracing this, and you can go back on archive.org, you will see I spoke about starting a university. I spoke about going into health. All of that happened. WildFit, Mindvalley University. I spoke about what wanted to happen 10 years in the future. What's funny about this is when you speak about the future as if it's now, people want to follow you. Customers want to buy from you. People want to be part of this future. And it's okay if you fail, because remember, 50% of your goals are supposed to have a 50% chance of failure anyway. And I state that. I'm like, all right, this is the future I'm going to build, but half of it is not going to happen. Do you want in? And people want in. So this is one of the most amazing things. It is the power of speaking about your life and what you're doing 10 years into the future. Try it tonight. When somebody asks you, that awkward question, what do you do? Anyway, and I state that. I'm like, all right, this is the future I'm going to build, but half of it is not going to happen. Do you want in? And people want in. So this is one of the most amazing things. It is the power of speaking about your life and what you're doing 10 years into the future. Try it tonight. When somebody asks you, that awkward question, what do you do? Pretend. So now, how do you embrace this future thinking, and how do you bring this into your company? Now, there is a trick to it, right? The future that you want to build has to be a future that supports unity. Elon Musk doesn't want to colonize Mars so he can be the first man on Mars. He wants to colonize Mars so he can back up the human race and make us an interplanetary species that is thinking about the other 8 billion cells that make up the human colossus. That's how you want to talk about the future. Now, maybe you run a company that is not working on something that bold and ambitious. Sri Kumar Rao once told me about a story where he was teaching a class, and the CEO in the class ran a company that manufactured window glass. And the CEO said, Sri Kumar, how do I speak about 10 years in the future? All I do is provide a commodity that's glass. And Rao said, but isn't it true that for 1 week every year in your community, where you employ 200 people, you take all your employees and you allow them to go and work for non-profits, like an orphanage or a soup kitchen, and you pay their salaries for a week? That is how you contribute. You're helping contribute to a more compassionate world. So speak about that. You, he told the CEO, are taking a stand for service. Speak about that. It doesn't matter that you manufacture glass. If people know that that is the core and the soul of your company, they will want to join you, and you will inspire people. So Rao, in other words, said, don't try to be inspirational. Instead, be inspired. This CEO wasn't inspirational, but he was inspired by the people who worked in soup kitchens, by the people who clothed the homeless, and he wanted to give his employees that experience. So how do you do it? The toolkit is take a stand. Like Martin Luther King spoke a lot about this. He said, Power without love is reckless and abusive. Love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice, and justice at its best is power correcting everything that stands against love. So you take a stand. For example, when me and Eric did a WildFit campaign last year, we took a stand against Nestle. It became the biggest news story in Malaysia, and what we wanted to do was expose how Nestle was getting kids addicted to sugary drinks and putting it up as energy drinks. And it was huge. It became the biggest story in the country for 7 days, and Nestle lost their health ratings for their Milo, which is a crappy product, in Australia, New Zealand, and they introduced zero sugar Milo in Singapore, partially because we took a stand against this $80 billion company. Another thing I wanted to share, and Marsha Wieder, who's in the audience, asked me to share this video today because she said it really touched her. When Mindvalley was going through this shift in 2016, right, when Trump won the election, we felt that while we hope he does well, there were certain things he said that were very much against our value of unity. We're a country that employs people from 54 countries. Ola Abbas, who runs our big events in the US, happens to be from Sudan, a country whose nationals Trump wanted to completely ban from entering the US. So I'm like, no way Trump is going to affect my Sudanese friend here. We need to speak out. So my team and I created this video. Now remember, back then we weren't as big as we were, but we took a stand. And it's very important that if you absorb the value of unity, you act on it, and you stand up for what really matters. So this is the video that we created.
We are going to build a wall.
I stand for love.
I stand for peace.
I stand for unity,
Education.
the environment,
Equality.
I stand for refugees.
In an age of dangerous politics, don't let bullies force you to sit down.
to tell you you're being too political or unpatriotic,
When you speak your truth.
To tell you you can't stand tall.
or that you don't belong here.
Speak up.
Rise up.
Unite.
And to those who dare to stand,
Our team is really proud of that video. And the funny thing is, when we did that, people are like, why would you release this? You'll just turn off, some of your customers. But actually, what happened is when we released this video, within 6 months, it was insane how much Mindvalley grew. Because people realized that we weren't just in it for the buck, that we actually wanted to make a change in the world. And we still embody a lot of these values. For example, I'm really big on refugees. So at Mindvalley University, I'm sponsoring through Syrian refugee teenagers to come and attend the classes, because I want our children who are going to be at Mindvalley University to understand what a Syrian refugee went through. I think that's one of the most incredible things to learn from, and hopefully befriend a refugee and open up their minds to the plight of 100 million displaced people in the world. Regular education doesn't teach you that. So the stand is something that's so important, but all of it comes from the value of unity, of ensuring that your compassion, your love extends outside just the borders of your nation or your gender or your industry, to all people, everywhere. And that brings us to the fourth value, which is love. So Khalil Gibran said, all work is empty